Sunday, so I'm thinking about religion again. And I'm out walking in the woods with with one of my dogs. This is Phoebe. The dog Guy has got a sore paw, so he's not out with us today. One of the things I've been thinking about in terms of religion, I guess I just don't understand it really. I'm probably just either not smart enough or just haven't read enough or something. But or haven't had the necessary experiences, whatever they may be. But I just can't see the point of it. I mean, that's the difficulty I'm having with that. I mean, I read about these ideas to do with different ways of knowing, different forms of knowledge. And I've occasionally used that phrase myself, even though I've been very uncomfortable when I've used it. I just don't know what kind of knowledge religion represents, or what it even strives for, even if it's underachieves or even if it fails radically. Just what kind of knowledge does it represent, if that's the right term? I mean, maybe the whole idea of knowledge in relation to that is wrong, but just what its status is in terms of experience, in terms of epistemology, in terms of anything really. I suppose where I'm kind of going with this is just to think about. This is interesting. I'm just walking through the woods and I see someone built some dirt trails, I guess for mountain bikes or BMXs or something. So where am I going with this to do with religion? I mean, I know it has lots of social functions. Whenever I read about religion, it always talks about it in terms of, to the extent it has function at all, it's always talked about in terms of maybe social function. So people talk about it as being a kind of cohering force within a community or a society or even a nation or a people. So it has that kind of function of quite literally as well as metaphorically pulling people together, getting them into the same place, allowing them to follow certain rules, allowing them to share values, allowing them to just cohere in the way that communities do. And I can see that, that's fine, I have no issue with that, but quite honestly, you don't need to believe in anything immaterial to have that function. You know, there's all sorts of good reasons for people to get together without necessarily invoking deities or angels or anything really, spirits of one kind or another. And then there are a series of explanations of its functionality in terms of individual experience. So perhaps it provides consolation, people say, particularly in times of stress, you know, in times of bereavement perhaps, or in times of existential dread about one's own death, or those kinds of questions. And again, yeah, fine, I can see that, but that's just kind of copping out, really, isn't it? I mean, that's the kind of chicken shit explanation of religion, if you ask me. It seems it doesn't do a service to either religion or to human dignity to say that religion only exists to kind of hold our hands during the hard times. And then there are explanations which don't step outside of the frame of religion itself, which are really completely unsatisfactory. Any claim for the value of religion, which is based in ideas to do with redemption or to do with being saved or becoming one with the Godhead or any of those kind of frames, they're invalid from the start as far as I'm concerned, because they are, they demand an investment within the very practice that you're trying to critique. So then it's meaningless as far as I'm concerned, those ideas. So what is the function, if it has a function, of religions and spirituality, of all that kind of stuff, really? I mean, I don't know, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be talking. I mean, the nearest thing I can get to it is to do with a kind of unification of different ways of knowing. It's not right. Different senses of experience in the world, really. And here I'm harking back, I suppose, to the etymology of the word religion, which I've talked about a little bit before, which is to do with binding together again. I think that's the etymological root of it. Relegare, which means to bind together again. So the implication being that there's something broken, something disjointed, something in a state of disunity, and maybe the things that are bound together in that isn't so much facts, I think science is really good at facts, and is really good at describing the material, physical world. Can't be beaten in those terms. But I think there is a sense in which human relationship to facts is quite tricky sometimes. And the kind of philosophical juggling act you sometimes have to do in order to be able to understand the status of certain facts, the status of facts which lie out with human experience, to do with quantum physics or relativity theory or whatever it may be. I mean, these are facts which lie out with human experience. They only exist within the maths, if you like, or within the epistemology itself. Perhaps there's an argument to be made that those kinds of experiences, that it would be quite nice if those kind of experiences were bound up with human experience, and also being kind of bound up not with anything mysterious, but just with the kind of acceptance that the being of human is kind of limited, and is kind of as perspectival, and is always subject to revision, and is always partial from an experiential, phenomenological point of view. And all those different levels of understanding that we as human beings kind of exist within, from the most centered, the most subjective, the most experiential, looking at a tree and seeing the bark on the tree, feeling the ground under your feet, listening to the sounds of birds, from that most experiential, simple, pre-reflective almost, through all those various different forms of and levels of experience to do with community and to do with sharing, and also bringing in together those experiences which are bound up with a kind of an emotional engagement, which might be positive or negative, but might require consolation or might require some kind of relief from anxiety, existential anxiety, but also bound up with pleasures and joys, but which is also bound up with the most rigorous of scientific practices. I think if there was a way of conceiving religion, a kind of binding together again of all those different ways of not human knowing, but different ways of being individually, being pre-reflectively, being communally, being socially and culturally, being empirically, and a kind of being which stretches the limits of the empirical, and possibly recognizing that the empirical might have limits. I think that kind of binding together is one I would perhaps sign up to. I don't think I would put it on a chair in the sky and give it a beard. I don't think I would give it any holy books. I don't think. Who knows? But that's the kind of thing I'd like for my religion.